Well, welcome in and happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Just Jump In live stream. Great to have you in here. Our virtual cookie goes to Jason. Welcome in. Nice to have you here. And Mike, welcome in. Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of railroad bridges that look very much similar. Um, that was had to be built in the 1800s when the station was built. Because that's actually like 15 feet off the ground somewhere in there. Um, because that was sloping down towards the water. There's a river called Raritan River there, and it's sloping down that way. And so basically, to keep it at level, as it's sloping down, they built that stone bridge basically, and that extends out as it goes across. But it became, I think they then probably used concrete, but then it extends out over the Raritan River. If I can find a picture, I'll share that. Gopher Girl, welcome in. Randy, hey, how's it going? So, there was a method to my madness on that thumbnail. I want to, while I'm still working on the cars, and they're all still work in progress, and I'll talk about some of the problems I've recently had um, with the 3D printing, or the get it basically measuring again. Um, and But I want to get back to making sure I'm getting things done and not just sitting around when I'm not working on the cars. And I'm still kind of shell shocked and still not moving back to the station. But for some of the AP requirements, for structures, you need a bridge. So the scene that you saw is going to be part of where the station is, and that'll also can serve as a prototype for the prototype certificate as well. So what you saw on there too was this mold maker, because I've been hemming and hawing and getting started on the bridge. And what I was originally going to do, and I didn't bring it in here, I'll probably bring it in later, but I was going to use the 1-inch insulation foam leftovers I had. And I got started with a couple pieces of wood, and I'm going to change the camera angle to show you this. So bear with me for a minute. All right. So this is basically the longest piece that I have, and I'm not sure that the camera is going to pick this up well. But I started working on measuring out the stonework of that bridge that you saw on the thumbnail. So there's stones that go all along in here, and then it's a thick stone and a thin stone, thick stone and a thin stone, thick stone and a thin stone as you go across here. So what I was going to do with the foam was going to go, this was going to be sort of the support behind it, and the foam edge. At 1 inch, I was going to use a pencil and create the stones. But I saw a presentation on using mold, and I've always wanted to try to use molds and stuff. So that's what we're going to try and do, and actually make a mold, and using carving plaster from Woodland Scenics. I'm gonna fill that. I'm gonna make the mold then with the mold maker, which is this, and then fill the mold with the carving plaster, so that I can use a sharp tool and carve the rocks, and we'll see how that goes. So to prepare for that, I actually measured just a small portion of this as a test. The reason I got this at Michael's, and I at work, we have a rewards program basically, where if you do a good job, you get points, and the points are like sort of like dollars, but they're like 20 cents to a point. And then you have this big marketplace where you could go find stuff. And they just didn't have a lot of things that I wanted. And hey, Mom, welcome in. And Tim, welcome. Yeah, Tim, I try to get to that on Thursdays, and I don't get to it very often, but I'm always watching them on the back end. Um, because the presentations are phenomenal, and there are people from, all over the Midwest that attend that, even though it's the Michiana division. And the clinics are great, and I learn every time I watch something, including in this one. The I never thought about it, but when they were talking about the trucks having ballast rocks hitting it and scratching it, um, um, Jimmy shoot pucks from the prize well, yes. But I never thought of this, that you could model. Now it'll be hard to, definitely almost impossible to see in N scale, very hard to see in HO, but you can still do it with like a light paint probably and a toothpick, but little tiny scratches um, to show that rocks are hitting it. So it's not just, you're not just painting on a rust or something. So I learned something from that. I learned something from every one of those Michiana division clinics. And so yeah, so I got the chance to actually attend one live, which I'm trying to be interactive, and I like to try to be interactive. So because I'm kind of a lone modeler. But anyway, so yeah, that's why I was there. So they just didn't have a lot, but they had Michael's gift card. So I'm like, I can always just get any supplies I need. If I need glue or anything like that, or paintbrushes, whatever I need as far as tools, I can get there. And I had been looking at the molds there and the mold makers there and stuff, and they're pretty expensive. This is like, I think retail was like $36.99, and then that the 32 ounce, the larger one, was like $79.99 or something. They only had a 20% coupon, but it was 20%. Added that in, and ended up being like $31 with tax, and I still have like $60 left on that gift card. But I finally went for it because I really want to make sure I'm actually moving on and doing something besides the cars. So the other thing that I did was I measured this out, and I did like a 2-inch. This is 2.5 inches, and I did like 4 inches here, and I measured that out, and then made the box bigger. So I just 3D printed a box, and that's really all it's going to be. This is I think a 1/2 inch in here. So the mold maker will go around it, and then once that's cured and everything, then I can use that mold from the mold maker, and I can I can print another box without this centerpiece in there as the box that holds the mold, and and then I can make I could start with a small piece of that. So I thought I would give this all a try. And you could see this grand disaster that's going to happen with live. And I've got the plaster coming tomorrow from Amazon. And this will be fully cured by tomorrow. They said you can use it, but it's going to be stronger if you let it cure. So then I can cast it. I can put once the mold's done, if it all works right and I did the release right, then we'll see what happens here. So the release that I'm using, being cheap, is alcohol and dish soap. So I'm trying not to have too much of a layer. Texture I don't care about in here. I just want it to release. Because again, we're going to carve the texture. So, and then the next thing is you have to measure this out. So they give you hey, Split Rock, welcome in. Hey, Tom. They give you their instructions, which have now disappeared, I believe. Get rid of that. I don't need that now. What did I do with the instructions? I cleaned up. Oh, they're smart. I was smart. I put them in here. So they basically said to figure out how much mold maker you need. You fill your mold up with rice. Then you dump the rice into a measuring cup, and then you know how much. Well, so to fill this up, it was 4 ounces. So it's 2 ounces of each of these things. Now, these don't have ounces. They have milliliters and cc's on here. So I had to go to the old interweb and do and figure out ounces to milliliters. So 2 ounces to milliliters is 59.14 milliliters. Hey, Art, how are you feeling? So with that being 59 milliliters, these cups go up to, they have measurements on them. They go up to 30 milliliters. So I basically need to double that line. And so I got this little thing from that I've used for mixing from DQ. Hashtag not sponsored. And comes with some popsicle sticks for mixing. And it says it has about 8 or 9 minutes of working time. So we're going to see how well I do with this, but we'll use 2 different mixers. And then we shall see how this all progresses. So we can see a live disaster happen or have something work. Well, now I didn't grab a bag for this, but need a bag for it to keep it fresh, I guess. So we'll cover that for a second. And then this is B. So, well, like you said, side effect of being sick sometimes is not so bad. As long as you get better, and you said you dropped some weight, which is really good. I could use that, but I probably don't want to get sick to do it. But anyway, so it's glad that you're better. And we'll see you next week at the meeting. Or online, though. All right, so I don't know how fast this pour is, so it's all going to be all right in front of everybody. It pours pretty fast. I'd slow it down just a little. do one more. Nice and slow. It's really thick stuff. So I wonder, probably have to actually, it probably would have been a good idea to have like a, if I'm going to reuse these cups, probably would have been a good idea to have a bin full of water or something to soak these right away, because since this stuff sets, kind of scary how red this stuff is, but it's very, it is what it is. Yeah, let's see this stuff. Comes out even a little bit quicker. It's slightly thinner. And we'll use hover over the other one. That's funny. That's funny, not funny. I do have the window open though, because I have this light. I've been trying to figure out the best way to light this area, and having the light right over top is and high is actually working, but it's very warm. Let's get the last one in here. I watched a video on the YouTube about the chemistry sets, and we had the chemistry sets growing up. And all I remember is making the sulfur, though, that smelled really bad. I don't remember much else from it. So my brother probably did something to me with it. Who knows? I do remember we have friends that live in Maine that used to take in stray dogs, and they had a blind dog that we would make the sulfur for and make him smell it and watch him jump and run. We were pretty cruel back then, but they were great dogs, but they all had some kind of disorders or something. So, okay. So then they say to mix for a very short time. I think it said 60 to 90 seconds. And said that it can get bubbles in it, so I'm not vigorous with the mixing, but let's see if we can get a full mix out of it, though. It's very thick now. And then the next thing that's going to have to happen, and there are bubbles in there, but they're supposed to degas after you pour. when they're sitting around. But here we go. Hopefully this was all done the way it was supposed to be done. And it does say pour in one spot like a corner, so that's what we're trying to do here. And let it level out. Exciting stuff, isn't it? If only I was Mr. Wizard. I sure am not. Science was not my strong point. Math wasn't my strong point. Believe it or not, this lazy, chubby old guy was more of an athlete. Maybe if they had model railroading club, I would have done well in model railroading in school. Maybe I would have aced school back then. But that wasn't me. I was positively mediocre. So hey, Ken, welcome in. Now, I love Professor Proton. I wouldn't want to have to show up in Sheldon's dreams all the time, though. Oh, this is going to be a shock to my mom, but Randy, I didn't see your wife there, but I was in the ER the other day at 212. Wasn't feeling well, had some high blood pressure that was higher than you can't smell that down there because the window is open. I can't smell it. I'm right over top of it. You're just making things up. So let's just get this to level out here. Oh, see, that's a bubble. Look at that, a big old bubble. So let's see if we can. Now, let's see. Do I have my trusty old pin? I don't. That's a nasty old bubble. Where's my pin? Oh, this old thing. Let's see if it's. I kind of want to move the bubble away from there. So we'll have to deal with that a little bit. Let's see if I can. Managed to just get a little bit more in this corner, because that is pretty darn level. The other thing that it warned about, so this being so we'll see how that works out, because obviously it's going to be on the underside, but that's a pretty big bubble and you can see that. Anyway, the other thing it says is this mold maker material could curl up when it's dealing with 3D printed items. And let's see. It says these materials can contain sulfur, which can affect cure. But this is all a test, so we'll see how this goes. That's a pretty big bubble there. All right. So, yeah, so everything was fine. There was a 4-hour wait. They admitted that they were delayed. Oh, you can. This is like hard now. So they admitted they were well behind. They were about 4 hours behind, and it took about 4.5 hours for me to see somebody. I went back. In the meantime, they took a whole blood, did their intake testing and stuff. My blood pressure was high there also, so that was like 3 readings in the day that were high. And then I went back there. They got me undressed in the gown. They hooked up all those little EKG electrodes. Didn't shave the hair on my chest, so that was a pain, literally. And the doctor actually came in right away before the intake nurse came into the room to start it off. And she said she looked at all the tests and everything looks good. She said there was one test where the level was slightly high, and that's usually when you're fighting a bug. And I think both Gopher Girl and I were sick, and I thought we were fighting a bug too. That was my guess. But I got worried about the blood pressure being higher than it ever was. So she wasn't worried. So she had me out in 15 minutes after that 4.5 hour wait. So, okay. So we're going to carefully move this over. It's actually not moving much at all in there. So I wanted to also show you the problems I was having. So I'm going to switch cameras again to hopefully get a slightly closer look at things. Let me see here. Let's go to cam video settings, and let's go back to the good old iPad webcam. So where we last left off with the car build was trying to match up the underbody to the shell, and this is the last. This was I printed only a partial piece of the shell. Obviously, didn't have to waste filament for that, and continue. And then I got down to this. This was like the 4th of the underbody parts that I had printed, and still was having problems. And so by connecting one side of it, so this was going to fit. So this wasn't fitting in. So it should fit in and come down over top. The shell should be over top. And so when you get it to the end, you can see the gaps in here. You can see that these holes don't line up, and it's short on this end as well. So I kept measuring the stuff in Onshape, and measuring it, they came out, the shell and the underbody came out to the correct width. But measurement wise, once it wasn't having it once it was printed. So I combined them, and I kind of sliced them down to this level just to get it started to show kind of this piece and this piece together. And not sure if you can see well there, but while when I had it lined up and on shape, it absolutely lined up perfectly. But when it printed, there you can see these holes are off. These holes are more this way, where the shell holes are more that way. And then you come over to this end and you see that these two, well, if I put it in there, these two are way off. Of course, it printed end to end as one. It also curled because I didn't have enough glue down on the bed, but I'm still struggling. And you can also see the gap. So the thing that connects with the bottom of the shell are these ends. So you can see that this one here has that gap, but on this side it blends right in. It printed right into one another. So I've got some figuring to do, and if anybody has any ideas as to how to fix that, I'm all ears, because I'm still struggling. And against the actual model, the kit model, I'm still shorter anyway on the whole thing. So I haven't figured that out because everything was measured out. I haven't printed it yet, but I did try and give some additional curvature to in here. And so we'll have to see how that comes out. And then I have to work on when this side is down, I'll have to work on seeing if we could fix that. The thought I had, and any of you that are 3D printers, maybe it can help me. I'm wondering that if I angle it like on one corner like that and not all the way flat, I'm wondering if that'll give it a chance to grow, to print like this side does. The other thing I'm going to try is using PETG as the tree supports, because PETG and PLA are not supposed to connect. Like, they don't melt together. They are at different temperatures. So if that's the case, I'm hoping that makes a difference on how this is printed once it gets through the layers, once it starts up with the PLA. But something I got to figure out. I've got to reach out to, I'm part of a couple of Facebook groups for different 3D printing, including a 3D printing model railroad group, one for the bamboo itself. So that's where I was at with that. So that was kind of frustration here after I printed this one, kind of move me in a different direction to try and do this. And so I'm hopeful that that I'll be able to, have a semblance of something, and so to work on it and see if this mold will work, and then I can focus on that. And then, by doing a small area on here, or from here, doing a small area from here, then I can just, line them up, and but only have to make the lines and striations of the wall in a small one, and then I can line them up. It's going to be over here where we're going to have to do a bigger mold to get this whole area, and to get the, let's see, here you can see better where I was starting to do the rock shapes on there. So let me see if I can. I don't have one thing I need plugged in, but let me see if I can find the picture. Let's see. So we're talking about the picture. Let's see if we can bring it up larger. All right, let me see if I can share. All right. So let's do nope, that's okay. Wish I could kind of full screen it, but anyway, so you can see the rocks here are pretty similar in size. There seems to be two sizes, except for this thin layer up here. There seems to be two sizes, one that's longer and one that's short, like half the size. And it's hard to tell on this picture. Let me see if I can get any with the thing I'm using. I don't know if I can focus in on here. I don't want to download that. I just want to see if it'll let me. It's, I don't know what it's doing here, but and you can see it goes all the way underneath. So I was so even I had it set up where I was going to have foam between. So there's another piece of this. I don't know if this isn't balsa wood. I think this is the other. What's the other kind that they sell at the hobby stores? Not balsa. Balsa's like a paper, more papery. Like I don't know if this is basswood or exactly, but there I have a flat one, wide enough for the 4 tracks to go across, and then I was going to support it with the foam or with wood blocks. I got a bunch of wood blocks. That was another way. So well, Tom, you can tell me. You can. I'm going into this blind, just trying it because thank you, Art Basswood. So I saw out at the last modelers retreat. I saw a demonstration of this, and I didn't ask enough questions because he did the Stone Arch Bridge in Minneapolis. And I really needed him to ask questions and so I put it off and put it off and put it off. Unfortunately, he's not around anymore, so I'm going at it blind. But you can tell me if I'm going to be successful here. We'll see if my homemade mold release will work too, because I was being too cheap. But anyway, so I had this whole, I was trying to come up with alternatives and figure out what I was going to do with that. And I could have brought up Google Earth, dum. However, if this mold works, then I can use the basswood as the shell and just glue the molds on and paint them. And there are so many colors. And I can't go wrong with colors for this. There's so many colors from in the rocks, in the growth on them. You can see just in this picture alone, you can see kind of rusty browns. You can see white. You can see some greens from the greenery and the overgrowth. And so you can see, some of that green gets into the coloring, some blacks and brown and other browns. And so it'll be interesting to color it. But then the station is off to the right of this. And so the station would be out front. Then you have the track behind it, and then the platforms and for both north and southbound. Let me see if I have any other images that so one that I used for, okay. That's over overdone. But come on. All right. So if we bring this one up from 1985, which that would be my era, certainly. Oh, and of course. So you can see off to the left here, that's that arch bridge. And then it's solid as you go back back to the right there. It's solid against this wall. And then the actual station, you have to actually walk up about 5 steps out of the station. So there's some ADA kind of area in the back where you walk out the doors, and it has a ramp that'll go up, like a ramp, and then you turn and come back up, and it gets you up or the 5 steps, and then you're on the platform, which is this covered area here. So that's a whole separate thing. So it's like this station, while it goes back towards that, it's sort of off from there so that they can fill that gap. So, and the stairs to go up have always been there. I don't know when they added the ramp, but I remember the ramp when I was a kid. So in the 80s and late 80s, early 90s, they are, it was there. So they were concerned about that. Here's the other problem with this depot was this is the first building I picked to basically scratch build. And so it's so intimidating because everything's so intricate on this building. And the insides have had different setups where they had like the ticket offices downstairs. At one point when I was growing up, the ticket offices were upstairs. When I was growing up, you'd walk in here and there's stairs and an escalator that go up, and there's some bench seating in there. I don't know if you all remember, but in the abandoned depot, I had done some benches, and they were in green, and they were inspired by the station and the benches that are in here. Let me see if I can do this. I thought I had the app. Where did the app go? I don't know where my Google Earth app went. Am I looking at it? Nope, I'm not looking at it. Let's see. Okay, let's see if we can open this up. Okay, so I guess we'll do the online Google Earth. Load this up and it took me 2 years of looking at Google Earth and the station to figure out or get something close to what the heights are, because New Jersey Transit wouldn't give me the heights. While I could get all the other measurements in the world, the heights I couldn't get, and they wouldn't give it to me, citing terrorism. Or let's see. Oh, so many pop-ups with this stupid thing. Okay. So let's open this up. This is very different from all right. And you'll notice a difference here too. Let's stop sharing. Let's reshare something. See if we can share the Google Earth window. All right. So wish I could do. Oh, I see what's going on. Let's do this. All right. So this is the station here, up close and personal. And so it's hard to see, but there's an angle here. The water is to the right of this picture, and the road goes up. When you're going underneath that bridge and going up the bridge, it actually goes upward. And these buildings on behind French Street here are all uphill, kind of built in that way. Let me see. I wanted to see if I can show you, but I'm not used to the new version here. But give me a sec here. All right, right there. Let me see if it gets me in here. Okay. So I was in, here are those green benches I was talking about that I remember from when I was a kid. I remember the benches against the wall. And I also remember this place was never busy. It had a few people, but it was never busy. We never had these ticket machines in my time. But as here are the escalator and the stairs that I was talking about. And sorry. Okay. And there are two entrances here. Let me see if we can move, if it'll let me move that way. It may only let me be stationary in here, but here are the ticket booths. I remember that. And then there were just two doors here. There's now multiple doors, but bathrooms. There's a bathroom here, and then obviously getting in the ticket office. This is more done up than it was in my time. It wasn't as pretty as this, I would say, but I mean, it had the old wood here, and you had to walk through that for whatever reason to go to the ticket booth. But this looks pretty much the same, and so let's see here. And you can see a train out there right now in this picture. I was hoping, once again, I used to be able to move around in this thing. Used to be able to get used to. Okay, so let's go back for a second. Sorry for moving this around on you. I wanted to see if I could show you. Let's see here. That's 2D. Oh, back. That's not where I wanted to go. All right. Okay. Also, this wasn't here either. This is a more modern thing. This is an elevator that was put in. There are also stairs on this side that weren't there because technically the stairs in the middle of the bridge were the end. That's the end of the platform, and then it's like 5 feet down or so. But you still can get trains there, and um, there also is a tunnel under here so that if you're getting off on the other side, you come down the stairs, you walk through the tunnel and out over here to the stairs because there's parking around back here. Um, the other thing that I need to tackle for the prototype piece that's really intimidating is these catenary um, poles, because you have the catenary poles, but then you have additional wiring on top of it, and figuring out, and the thing that keeps getting in my head and in the way is height. What's the height of them? And like I said, I stared at this for like 2 years trying to figure out the height and didn't notice this 12-foot clearance sign here. Staring at Google Earth doing this, and you have this 12-foot clearance sign. So 12-foot, I'm assuming it's in the middle of the car lanes is where the 12-foot was, and that's how I was trying to measure it out when I was cutting the wood. Anyway, so that's a that's a look at the depot. You didn't spend a whole lot of time in there. There's now a florist and a Dunkin' Donuts in there. When I was using it regularly, there was kind of like just a convenience type store on the bottom. I wasn't there when there was a Dunkin' in there, but I didn't bother. I went up, got my tickets, and I was out on the platform waiting. And I used to go to the front of the platform. So going to the right, you are going to New York. And so I go all the way over to the right, and these are long platforms. Let's go back to, where did it go? Where did my Google Earth go? Okay. Oh, I didn't know I could move that. All right, so let's see if we can get, so here are your platforms, and I'll have to find out what the length is again. I can't do it one for one. I can't, even in scale, I'm not going to be able to do it in HO scale. It's going to be shorter. Where these can handle like 10 car trains, 10 85-foot car passenger cars, I'm probably going to be able to do no more than like 5. But it goes all the way out right from where that bridge is, all the way over to the right. And then there's a small shelter on the other side. And that goes all the way out and just a little bit further. So you can see, if I can, without making everybody sick, which I probably failed. This is all solid underneath here and against these buildings. Why can't I? Sorry, I'm trying to angle this, trying to see if I can. Oh, there we go. I'm stupid. But sorry, folks. It doesn't come out. You really have to have the street view, but that's all that same rock structure. But as you come out here, it stays elevated, and there's all that rock structure, and it keeps going. And here's some more stone arches, and it keeps going. It crosses over the parkway there, and you're on the water. But now on the water, you can see it stops the stone and becomes cement. But for depending on my space and what I do, I'm likely to use the bridge structure to be right next to the station for the bridge requirement. So once again, I apologize for making everybody sick looking at that, but that's a look at what I want to do as far as the main feature of what would be my layout. And work on. So I decided I wanted to move in this direction of doing the track part and the bridge part and the stone wall and everything, and then again come back to the station, and then obviously keep working on the cars and figuring out how to get these cars to finish up nicely. And I can't believe how far I've gotten, but I got so frustrated with trying to figure out and move the and get the sizing right and everything that was bugging me, that I actually kind of blew this up in Onshape. And so I went and I created a third one, and I'm still having those distance troubles. So gonna have to keep working on that. And see what I can come up with. But I will keep working on that. I'm gonna test this. This actually should be, although it looks it looks very wet. I'm a little afraid to touch it, and I'm just hoping the mold release works. And we'll see if we can then, when I get the plaster tomorrow, the carving plaster, get that started. I also we don't have enough USB ports on here. I need at least one more, because I wanted to add another camera, like I was showing you this camera of the workbench when I was showing you what I was doing with this. And so I also bought an extender that I'm hoping works. I didn't spend a lot of money on it, to get more USB ports so that I can have multiple cameras, so that you can have a better look at some of the stuff that we're working on. Jimmy, the quite a bit of the length of, well, at least through New Jersey, most of the length of it is 4-track. Other than some of the stuff up north, when you're going down to Trenton and then into Philadelphia. And I have this incredible resource that's going to help do the track work part of the AP. But this rail operations physical characteristics guide, we won't look at that. I used to have these marked. But yeah, let's see if we can. So, okay, so it's one back. Okay, so this is where New Brunswick Station is on the track plan. So what's really neat about this is it gives you kind of like signal locations where everything is, where there are other tracks, where there are crossovers. So when I'm modeling crossover for the civil certificate and stuff, I'll have places right where that I can do it, or I can model that piece. you know, it's not going to be exactly like this. For instance, so, you know, and along this line, you can see where their other tracks lead to, where they're other stations throughout. Then, so the other thing I want to model is the North River Tunnel to get into New York City. And that goes down to 2 tracks. So I have that when I want to try and do something with that. And that was another scene. That's what Tom a while back suggested maybe would be a good prototype scene, would be like the entrance to the tunnel. And then Penn Station in New York City. I can't model that for sure. I'll never have this kind of space. But I think there are 21 tracks. And I think it may have changed a little bit because they've expanded. There's a gigantic building next to the station and Madison Square Garden, which was the post office for the main post office for New York City. And that was taken over. And I believe that Amtrak was moved over there. And then New Jersey Transit and Metro North are still underneath Madison Square Garden. But either way, here's the North River Tunnel coming in with those 2 tracks, and then it expands out. So my proposal's like no more than like 6 tracks, something like that, just to get the feel of it. But I don't have the room for that anyway. But there's there's things that I didn't realize in here. There are yards all along, even in New Jersey, that I wasn't aware of, and so I can model a yard or something off of there to model some, or models, just get some freight traffic on there, because there's a tiny bit of freight traffic that you'll see from time to time. And I believe it's Norfolk Southern that you would see on there, if I'm not mistaken. And so lots of modeling possibilities. I'm holding on to this for dear life so that when I actually can set something up, that I will. This was at a club. They had their little shop for their club. It was out in front. Basically, when you walk down into it, it's just a hallway. And one of the guys there, after talking to him, knew he had this, and I didn't see it. And before I left, he grabbed me, and I was like, "Yes, absolutely, I will buy this from you." And so we'll get to use that at some point. I'm afraid to do anything with this mold. I kind of want to touch it, but that's how I get into trouble. You can see this is already curing in here. So, and look at that. So that's nice that it comes off of there like that. And that's nice because then I can save this and use this again. Ooh. Let's go. That's interesting. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Very grabby. So I will be interested to see how that comes out. My guess is, because of that gigantic bubble and the fact that I can see the top end of what the mold inside is, that this is probably not going to be usable, but it's a hell of a try to start with. So that's the fun I'm having right now. most of our stuff has been health stuff lately, and so we haven't been like Art, haven't been having a lot of fun. Um, but um, I'm getting back into it. I'm moving forward, and that's the most important thing, is continue to move forward. And um, I will either post this or bring it up next week and see how we do with this. And then I'm really interested to see how, because I know you could do like lightweight hydrocal. I know you can carve that, and they were the same price. And supposedly the carving plaster was designed for the carving and maybe easier. Um, and who knows? Maybe they're really the same thing under a different label. Um, but we'll see if it works. Great, and then it'll make it easier to do this this thing we call modeling. Um, but that is me. You can see why I needed. I don't know if you can see how bad that is, but you can see why I needed a break from this, and having to redo that underbody was frustrating. And so this is a good distraction. So maybe I'll focus on this weekend. Um, what was the other thing that I picked up from Amazon? One of them's coming on Sunday. Two of the things are coming on coming tomorrow. I know the casting plaster is coming tomorrow. I hate my brain sometimes. Um, oh, and Gopher Girl. The other thing I need is, and I don't know if you got it on Amazon, so I didn't try it, but I need one of those glass protectors for my phones. It's starting to crack all over now. I wasn't looking for that, but um, anyway, that's it for me. Yeah, I'll get something out there to see where we went with this, to see if I was able to cast something. What I could have done while we were sitting here talking is I could have created a little bit more, and poured that in and poured another layer over top even after this was starting to set. You're still holding 20. Don't you have like a jig for that? Like clamps and magnets and things, Ken? Why don't you tell us what you're working on? Maybe that'll keep me around a little longer. You have to understand also, I had like 2 hours of sleep last night, and so I'm a little bit low on the energy. Oh boy, I don't want to hear him answer that one, Jimmy. I don't want to know if he's going to be there all night if he didn't put glue in it. So, um, the other thing I want to do with these two, with the cars also, is eventually have somebody print these in resin printing. One, because the supports are going to be in here in a different way. And so generally, you have a better way to get rid of layer lines. If you look at this one real close, so this side with all the glue marks, because I use stick glue on there, this side is actually as flat as the build plate is, which is not completely flat because it has some old markings in it plus some glue, but there are no layer lines on this side. They're all gone because that's all melted together. But if you look at this one, you have all kinds of seams and layer lines. And this was a draft quality thing anyway. But either way, I still want to see. I still want to see somebody print this in or part of it. Do something like the half shell, like something like this size, just to see how it prints out and how it looks. And, my guess is it's going to look very good that way, and this just looks decently good this way. But anyway, I digress. Assembling an air slide hopper with glue. Glue, what's that? Winstead. That's one that's like, what is that, about an hour and 15 minutes from the cities, I believe. I mean, I have a little bit of extra money to burn. I mean, I could put it towards a car payment and maybe pay off our new car sooner, or I could go to a meet or show and buy more stuff I don't need. So let's see here. It's the flyer on the website, I would assume. Do we have some clinics lined up for our virtual show? All right. So let's see if I can find. So it looks like it's tomorrow 9 to 5 and Sunday 9 to 3 for the Winstead. It's the Loose Line Model Railroad show. I didn't know Big John's the title sponsor of it. And then North Star Prototype Model, the Fremo guys will be there. Let's see if I can find another. No, it keeps going back to that one. There it is. And come on, why won't this open up? What is going on? All right. These pictures won't. It's trying to get the flyer to open up here, but I can't seem to do that. It's on the Loose Line Model Railroad show. There's information about it. On Facebook for anybody interested. I haven't been. Let's see here. Let's go to here. Yeah. And then I was going to say, do we have any clinics lined up I know we're trying to get clinics lined up for our virtual shows. Our virtual meetings. 13th, so next week for that. Looks like online structures for show and tell. So that's the show page in Facebook. So it doesn't seem like it's too far away. So we'll have to see what's on the honey-do list. Football playoffs are on, so Gopher Girl's going to be distracted, and so I'm sure she won't even know if I leave the house. All right, I'm going to touch it. Ooh, that's pretty solid. I'm tempted to try and remove it, but I'm going to try and temper I'm just going to try and leave it. I'm hopeful that the mold release stuff will work. Let's see what if it feels very solid. That is not. That's still wet. Yuck. I think I just popped the bubble. So that's probably going to be a problem. I'm probably need to put a little more on top of that. And I could just mix a little bit of this stuff in here. And this stuff's not solid. I don't know if we want to put this down the drain though, because we probably don't want to agitate it. So we'll see if we can clean it out with wet paper towel or something. And then, yeah. So that's reusable. Then I'll get a baggie to put these in and put them back in the box so we can seal them up tight and make sure that, because this didn't take a lot at all. This is 4 ounces. And there's 16 ounces, so it's like three more servings of this stuff. But hopefully it'll work, and I hate dog hairs everywhere. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if I want to see that clinic. So you could, as long as you filled in the gaps. There are still gaps with Legos, so you'd have to fill in the gaps. But Legos are still really useful if you use the square and the rectangular bricks. They're really useful for right angles that you need in model railroading. So I don't know if you can use hot glue to kind of fill that in. A lot of people buy acrylic to make and just use hot glue and make their mold boxes that way. We'll see how this works out, and if it works, if I need, one of the things I was worried about is corners can create pockets and bubbles and things. So I rounded the corners here around the edges, and then inside I rounded the corners all the way around, so the edges are all rounded, because I'm only going to need that half inch thickness for the mold, and so that's away from where I need it. So that should be fine. But I did that to try and not have stuff like that happen. But we will see. I may just, if it's not going to affect the actual mold structure, like if I'm still going to get a half inch of a rectangle out of it, I could just mix a little bit more and put it over top of this, or I could just do a whole nother one. But we'll see. I'm so want to go in there and grab it out, but I'm not gonna. And there's so much Lego in our house. I could grab some and from anywhere, and I don't think Gopher Girl will miss it. And I could distribute it to the division, and everybody can have some blocks. Although, with the kits, or with the they don't have a lot of just square and rectangular blocks. I mean, I shouldn't say that, they do, but it's not like the old days where that's all you had, and that you could use those. And stop trying to instigate Gopher Girl. I'm doing a good job just touching it. It's weird and rubbery. And this light stuff is even weirder. But yeah. All right. I am going to go ahead and shut her down for the evening. If I do go out to the show, I need some sleep, and I haven't had a lot of sleep lately. So with Gopher Girl preoccupied with the national semifinal, maybe I'll get some sleep. Yep, need some of the good old basic ones. You're correct. Great for those right angles for sure. And if you're in O scale, there's a number of people I've seen who've done O scale who've actually used, instead of going through something crazy like this, they've used the Lego bricks as their brick wall or stone wall and painted that. And there's a guy who did a really good job to get the relief. He used, I think he used some Sculptamold. Over top of each brick, or he used something to give it the texture, which will look even better than I think carving on here. But it was really neat. But he used Lego bricks for that. And but then I'd have to get into O scale, and I definitely don't have room for O scale if I don't have room for HO. So I'm in Chanhassen, right on the Chanhassen-Chaska border. So I'm pretty far from you, Ken. Well, far for a Minnesotan to drive anyway. But you're pretty much straight north. You won't miss any of the Legos. You won't even know they're gone. I'll just put little holes in the bottom of the boxes and say that we had mice or something. All right. Well, I will get an update out over the weekend, hopefully, on this. But everybody have a fantastic weekend. If I see you out close to the highway, south of 7. So just south of 2 highways south of 7. If you know where Paisley Park is, where Prince's studio was, we're not too far from there. We're just south of that as well. And yeah, we're between the high schools, between the Chaska and Chanhassen high schools. Um, when our phone says, like, upstairs it says like Chanhassen and downstairs like Chaska or vice versa. It's very weird. Um, when we moved here, the post office didn't exactly know where we were. It was a new development. So, um, yeah. Um, so now you know where I'm coming from when I'm coming up to the fun up at the church up by you. So, all right. Well, everybody, like I said, if I see you on Saturday or Sunday at the show, that'll be a good time, I'm sure. And otherwise, have a fantastic weekend. Um, okay, I'll let you know, Ken. I do like my car now. Well, our car, I do like it though. It's a nice ride. Um, it's a Toyota Sienna, and it's an updated from what we had. We had originally a 2015. This is a 2023. It's a little more. I'm still finding stuff on it. We didn't get the owner's manual with it, but I was looking. The dial for the speed on the dashboard's really small. And so from going 5 miles difference, you either have to feel it because you can't really see it. I just figured out how to digitally see the speed, um, and also where to see the compass to know which direction I'm going in. Um, so, um, yeah. So I'm discovering stuff with that. But like I said, anyway, just jump in, try something. You never know what can happen. You may fall in love with something and take a deep dive. Anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. And we'll see you later.